to Ledezma Family. We welcome you to home where faith and family meets. My name is Father Tim Donovan, the parochial vicar here at St. Bonaventure, and this is Pam Hurwitz, my co-host.
Okay, welcome. Thank you.
And this is take 3.
Yeah,
We're
this is
trying
take
really
3.
hard today. We've had the blowers outside, we've had the phone ringing. I feel like we're in the middle of a home right now, and it's just like a matter of experience. So it's good. We're good.
And we're super happy to have you guys. Happy to have you guys. And I've known George. We've known each other a while.
Yeah.
We both were youth ministers together and became good friends. And I fell in love with his wife. And so we're super, super excited to have you on today.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Invite you to introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about you and what you love doing.
My name is George Ledezma.
And I am Wendy Ledezma.
Yeah. I'm a high school religion teacher at Santa Margarita Catholic High School.
And I am currently in a master's program studying clinical psychology to become a marriage and family therapist and work with the Latino population. And I work at a school with special needs kiddos. We've been married for almost 2 years.
Nice.
July.
You survived.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. And thrived. You look happy.
Yes.
This is
Yes.
good.
Thank you.
Yes,
We
you
are.
do.
Still got the joy of it.
Yeah.
Just
Nice.
don't have the joy of it. So.
Maybe some days it doesn't feel like that, but it looks like that right now too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we're, I think the adjustment phase, we're a lot more well adjusted, I think, and moving in together. And so, but we have,
Yesterday, though, we were driving, and she looks over to me, and we were going to her parents' house, and she says, "You're my husband." Like, she is just like, still.
I have my moments.
Like, yeah.
We're married.
It's been a year and a half.
Yeah.
I would
Still
hope you
getting
know
used
that.
to it, huh?
And I think because we haven't stopped doing what we do.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm still going to school. He got his master's too, and then we are still ourselves. Like, we've respected our independent selves. We've just now are sharing it together.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's why I think I'm still like, wow, like this is nice.
I say that sometimes too about being a priest. Sometimes I'm like,
You're like,
whoa, am I a priest? Really? Did that
Yeah.
just happen? So sometimes I catch myself. Less now, though. I feel like when the longer it is, you're sunk into like, yeah, I'm a priest, yeah, or
Okay.
I'm married people or whatever.
Reality check. Yeah.
Beautiful. How's been the first year and a half or almost 2 years? It's been good.
Yeah.
Lots of blessings.
Tell
Yes.
us things you love to do together.
so we like food. Food is up there.
Love cooking.
And we love cooking, and lately we've been kind of tackling these really difficult things to cook that right, like we've made tamales, which
Using an instant pot.
yeah, we use
for the tamales
Nice.
for New Year's.
and then we
did
like
that.
to we like to cook these things, and then we like to invite people over to share and to share our experience of the cooking, and also just to share the meal and to share life with each other.
And yeah,
That's
he's
awesome.
a great cook, and he cooks most of the time. I cook every so often. I'm more in charge of like the maintenance of the house and the aesthetics of things, and he's just he'll cook. But it's nice. We're a nice team. We combine our strengths and we make something with it. And I think in general we love serving others, not just food, but we also are musicians, and we sing, we play guitar, and we share that with others too. In the church, we were in the choir for a long time, and then we took a little break.
Also with our families, we share the gift of music. Like for Christmas, we had they called the cops on us, I think.
Oh, wow.
So my mom,
We were playing.
That sounds like
We
a
were
party,
playing
yeah.
like canticos. We were playing all these songs as we were doing a nativity play in our backyard, my parents' backyard.
A nativity play?
my
Yeah.
mom, she's like the director and all this. Growing up, my mom would dress us up, so we would reenact, the
My
birth.
dad, her dad were the wise
Jesus.
men, and my uncle,
Oh.
She dresses us
gosh.
up.
and we were the
We
choir.
sing, and so we've kind
How
of
precious.
continued
That's
that
beautiful.
tradition. Now with his family, my family combined, we
Yeah.
share.
But we were doing this at 11 p.m. outside,
started sprinkle.
I was playing like the bass. She was on the guitar. Her mom was on mandolin. We're just playing with the family. Everyone was singing, and the cops showed.
They called the cops. Like,
All these Scrooges next door.
We're just singing for Jesus. Like,
yeah, we're singing. But it's funny because I think my dad opened a door and he was dressed as a wise man. And the cop must have been like, "What the heck is going on?
Look at the Virgin Mary
What
back
kind of party
there.
is this?"
Your families did not know each other before?
No,
Okay.
but right off, pretty soon after we started dating, maybe about 3 months, we brought our families together.
And
Right.
they just clicked.
It sounds like it. If you're
It's a
doing
blessing.
these type of
It's a
events
huge
together,
blessing.
wow, that's awesome.
And we try to, when we cook and stuff like that, those are times too when we try to bring the families together.
For my dad, I mean, I'm the oldest in the family. Me, getting married, being the first and leaving home. I think it was really hard, but the fact that when you went to ask for my hand in marriage and ask for permission,
I went with
very
my dad.
traditional, he went with his parents to my parents' house. I
Oh.
wasn't included. And,
Wow.
they spoke, and something that his dad told my dad, saying, doesn't mean that they're going to start their own family. Now we're just a bigger family. And my dad took that and ran with it. He's like, yep, we're all a family. So now he's a lot more like involved in family gatherings and
And
just
he says that like
a
he
lot.
says it all
And
the
it's
time.
like,
well,
that's his thing.
We're a bigger family.
Because
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't heard of that before.
Mhm.
So you took your mom and dad.
Yeah,
Is that
made sure that she wasn't at the house.
okay?
I brought him a bottle of tequila and I showed up with my parents and we asked for Wendy's hand.
my mom
And is that
cooked and-
traditional to have the parents come too? Or okay?
Yeah,
I've
it
not
is.
heard that. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Mexican
Sometimes,
culture.
actually, in Mexico, you'd bring a
in
priest.
Mexico, you bring a priest
So if
or
you have any Hispanic families here, just be prepared for that. They're
for a
gonna ask you
blessing.
that.
We
Yeah.
have quite a few. Yeah.
So the
I have not been
parents,
asked yet.
the spouse to be,
Yeah.
and then a priest. Wow,
Mhm.
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
But I love that because it is so true. I mean, something. I mean, now having a son-in-law, they're not leaving. You know what I mean? And whatever he brings with him now is a part of us. And so I love that image that it's not like they're becoming; it's like we're all becoming, and that is very, very beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that. That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. It was helpful for my dad, to cope with this, what could have been seen like a loss,
Yeah.
but, he reframed it as a gain.
Mm.
It's just,
Mhm.
so it's, yeah. So that's what we've been.
What a blessing that your families like enjoy each other too,
Yeah, they really do.
and enjoy getting together and
Genuinely,
celebrating
they
together.
do.
And
And it also expands, my sisters I have 2 older sisters and who are married, and it also extends to their families. I mean, we sometimes will have gatherings where, they'll invite their spouses' families, and,
Yeah.
and we know them, and, we know Brian
get
and
along
Pablo's
very
parents
well.
and Scott's parents, and
Yeah.
so we know.
as you were talking, I got inspired that I think we should do like a home cookbook. What do you think?
Oh,
That's a good idea.
With all of
Yeah.
our guests
Yeah.
and different
and the
recipes.
traditions and the
We
meals
can
and
each
the,
share a
yeah,
recipe
That
or
might be kind of
something.
fun.
that would be
Yeah.
very fun.
That might
I
be down
love
the
that.
road a little bit
I
here.
love that.
Maybe the next RE Congress. We'll
Yes,
have a home cookbook,
yes.
What a thing, I'm
Yeah.
excited for that. I love
Yeah.
cooking too. I think for me,
Nice.
like
Yeah, it's
Oh, that could
relaxing.
be
it's-
my
good.
family always gets around food, always.
Yeah.
And we're actually having a little reunion with our home podcast families, which you'll be invited to.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And we were going to do potluck, and I decided that I'm going to cook for it.
Oh, are you?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to go cook with the Strom family, and we're gonna cook for it. So
Oh,
it should be
wow.
fun.
Okay,
Get you the date on that for sure. But
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
beautiful.
I think one of the beautiful parts about that is so it's one of the ways to share joy.
Yeah.
Like for me, like I love cooking something that other people enjoy. And when you can see them enjoying each other around a table, there's just a lot of fruit that comes from a really good meal.
Oh, yeah.
Good food, good people, good conversation. There's just that fills up a heart in different ways than a lot of things really fail at doing,
Mm-hmm.
and being able to share that with others, I think is really what we're called to in our lives of faith and in our family lives, and being rooted deeply in that,
Yeah.
Reminds me of our responsorial psalm for this next Sunday. It talks about that tree that's planted near the flowing river that is always fruitful, that's always producing this abundant fruit that's kind of overflowing into others. And it's really when we're deeply planted in like our lives of faith and our relationships with God, then we have that capacity to be for others, to share with others, to let that overflow into other people's lives. But there's also that temptation of just like trying to self-preserve and take ourselves into kind of our own closed offness, which then I think is what joy dries up too. But when we're sharing and we're, giving out of our need even, and inviting people into that and making sacrifices of preparing all this food and all of these kind of things and probably paying for a lot of it yourself and just pouring that in, there's so much fruit that comes forth from that. Like God is so there, which I love too. So
Yes.
blessedness, I think that's what blessedness is, right? Blessedness is the joy of knowing that God is who we rely on, and God is who our focus is on, and not just ourselves, what we can do, but allowing those opportunities for grace, I think, which are really cool. I love the table.
Yeah.
I love the table too.
I always have tables in every room.
Yeah.
Like this table here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's a nice table.
Talking about the scriptures, I'm going to invite you to share with us maybe any reflections that you had thought about, or in that same vein, or anywhere around there.
Well, with Jeremiah, just thinking about the imagery, this contrast from something that's barren and dry and fruitless to something that is fruitful and water flowing, and I think that just talking about food, for example, like what lens do we view food through? Do we view it as it's gonna go into our bodies right now, and it's people coming together and they're just gonna take what we have to offer, and then that's it? Or do we view it as, no, there's something bigger at play here? We're consuming this, but we're doing it in we're not just sharing the food, and that we're sharing our lives, and it's nourishing us beyond the physical, it's nourishing us in a spiritual way. There's something greater that's happening here. And so I see Jeremiah as like, where do you put your hope in? How do you, do you only trust the mundane? Do you only trust men? Or do you trust God? Do you trust love? Do you trust the things that are greater, bigger, transcendent? Do you view those realities, or are you only focused in the here and now? That's kind of
And also in serving others, as you mentioned, and it requires a lot of humbleness. So we can't just, keep to ourselves in our little box and be self-centered. In cooking for others and sharing with others, we have the opportunity to plant seeds as well and watch that grow and our relationships grow, because when we serve others, for me, I feel like we are working on that relationship that we have with them. And when they leave, they feel loved, and maybe they feel called to share love with others. So it's almost like a domino effect. So if we can start that and instill that in them, that would be such a blessing.
And it was kind of neat because we had a little break here for a few minutes, and they were talking about Wendy and George, that they had kind of been working on a list of people they haven't maybe connected with for a while.
yeah.
And
Nice.
I know are wanting to, have a meal and invite them over. And what a great practice. What a great challenge to all of us. Because sometimes and what's hard is because, we get busy and we get overwhelmed. But then the minute you sit down together, you're like, why don't I do this more? How could I do this more? So, and we are the only creatures that eat our food at a table, and because it is more than fuel for us. We're not, and even though we can eat it in the car, that's kind of a bizarre part of.
I would say that's a devaluation. Rushing around. Not that I've never done that before, but it's probably not the best part of my humanity.
Yes, but just the idea that our food is more than fuel, and it is meant to be shared. And I don't. That's I love tables. I love tables.
Thanks for bringing that up about us. It was part of our New Year's resolution, saying, well, we want to connect back with family members or friends that we haven't seen in a long time, because like you said, we're so busy, and I'm tired of saying that I'm busy. Like I want to make that time. If I
Oof.
really care for those people, then I will set that time. So personally, I've challenged myself to not say I'm busy, but say I don't have the time yet, but I will like make the time.
Make the time.
Okay, I'm going to be honest, and I'm not really super proud of this, but I have been watching. I think it's called A Million Things, A Million Little Things. Okay, it's a show on one of the networks. Okay, on Thursday night, and I don't know. I would, yeah, whatever. Somehow I've got to watching it a little bit, but she, one of the characters decides she loves cooking, and she's a chef, and she someday I'm going to open a restaurant. Someday I'm going to open a restaurant. Someday, and so she ends up opening this restaurant, and the name of it is Someday. And I just like when I saw the sign in I just thought that we have to, live in some, it's like today's the day, like someday, I don't know, that just had an impact on me, like to live someday instead of waiting for it to happen. But anyway, how different things would be, how many more people we'd have over. So.
Yeah, I love getting together on Thursdays. I cook with my family. That everyone who listens to the podcast has heard that way too many times. But I love doing that, and actually it's interesting because I'm a priest, so I get requested to go hear confessions for like many young adult things or other things or whatever, and they're like, why aren't you available or on that day or whatever. It's like this priority, like family dinner, like it's what we do, And so many of them have been like, I'd really like to go to that one time. And I'm like, yeah, let me know. Come on over. Like, I don't mind. My family is really cool about it too. That we're open door, to like having people come over and sharing that. And we need that. Like, we need that time around the table with people that care about us and want to hear our story and want to, embrace our lives with them. And then to feed them is telling them that you want their life too. That you want them to not just have life, but to enjoy it. I said there's two types of people in the world. There's the people who eat to live, and then there's the people who live to eat, I'm definitely of the second. Live to eat, but also live to like share in a communion of sorts around that table, right? I think that's that's so Christian. It's so Eucharist. It's so all of that together. Yeah.
And so hopeful, because I love the kingdom of heaven, that this banquet, that we're going to be at this banquet, and I think almost like we're going to be at this banquet and we're going to be able to linger, we're not going to be in a hurry. We're not going to be, and to me, that would be the biggest blessing, is to just linger at a table with the people I love for as long as I want.
Yeah, the gospel is this whole like difference between the blessing and these woes. Blessed are, and I don't know, a lot of times we may not think of being hungry or weeping or sorrowful and those things to be blessings, but like we were talking about earlier, I think you can sum up all of these Beatitudes, Luke's or Matthew's, in that one saying, like, blessed are those who need God and need others. Like, we live in such a world that always harkens us to be like, be self-sufficient, do it yourself, like you don't need anyone else, all this kind of things. But that leaves us like shriveled up and just basically the cage is around us, right? The cage is us. Like, all I have is what I can do. But like being a Christian is not that. Like, being a Christian is someone who says like, no, like we're better together. Like, we need each other. Like, we need God.
The concept of, we're not saved as me, but we're saved as we.
Right.
Like this communal approach to salvation, that we really do radically depend on each other. And even like the very nature of God as Trinity, that God himself is a communal being that we're made in the image of. And so what does that say about us? That says that we're meant to live with a radical openness towards other people. And if we don't do that, then woe to us. Like, we're not living in the way that we're supposed to live. And we're only going to experience life. We're not going to experience life maybe in the fullest extent, in the way we're meant to.
Yeah, woe to the rich. It's interesting. We see it here, but not so much. The richer you are, the bigger your fences are. The more that we isolate, the more that we try to protect what we have. You see very poor people; they don't have fences.
No,
it's like house and neighbors, and they're coming across sharing the little that they have with each other. And even if you're guests, they come in and give you whatever's there, even to the detriment of maybe themselves sometimes, But the rich are the ones who have to go through extra lengths to protect what they have. I love what St. Francis of Assisi said. He says if you says you can never starve, you can never starve a fasting man, right? He says you don't have to protect anything if you don't have anything to protect, right?
Wow.
And then that's kind of a thing. Like, do we live our lives? And I think when we're like rich and what's this says, and filled and full of laughter and people speak well of us, like the focus is so me and my own thing. But I feel like we live in a world that the focus is so me, but like the loneliness is out of charge today.
Yeah.
Like, it's because we're so isolated and away from it. But this realization, like, no, it's like maybe when I'm weeping, I need someone else to comfort me. I need God to give me that promise of salvation, that promise of hope in the future. When I'm hungry, we need to be able to lean into each other. What am I hungering for? I'm hungering not just for food, but for relationship, for intimacy, to be known, to be accepted, to be embraced in those ways. So I love that that the Lord, I think, is really a call here to remind you that the blessedness doesn't come from being alone, or being self-sufficient, but blessedness comes from this radical need for each other and for God. And
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I keep thinking back to this movie. I watched it because I was told that it was Pope Francis' favorite movie, Babette's Feast.
Oh.
Have you seen it?
No.
It's nice.
I've heard
I
that
don't
too.
want to spoil it.
It's good.
It's really good.
You watched it?
Go ahead.
And
you guys.
well, it's
spoiler alert.
It's about a woman, and she finds herself living in like a Puritan settlement. I don't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And then she has a lot of money, right? And I don't know if she wins. I think she wins a lottery or something, and she just blows it all. She just spends it all on a feast, and she gives, and it's all for these people who are living a very dry life, very aesthetic, I guess, almost to an extreme where they deprive themselves from flavor and from taste, and here is this extravagant feast that she just kind of makes for them, and I think that there's like tortoises, like they eat. It's pretty
And they try
ridiculous.
to shame her for it, right? Like,
Right.
how
and
she's
they
being so
yeah.
wasteful
Yes.
and everything, and
Yes.
but
Yeah.
she wants, like, her heart is just to like bless them.
She
And
just
so-
wants,
Right.
yeah, she just, and then they eat it, and then it's just like the color, just like you just see it flush into their faces, and they're just so much joy, and they can't stop but laugh, and it just completely changes it. Like this person's just pouring their heart out in this meal, and it's just having this impact. And I just kept thinking about that when we were discussing this.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's a perfect
it's a beautiful
example
movie. Yeah,
of what we were
And
talking
what's
about.
it's called?
Babette's Feast.
Babette's Feast.
yeah, Babette or Babette.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna.
There's a beautiful book. I'll give it to you because I think you really like it. It's called The Hungry Soul. It's written by a Jewish person. He talks about Babette's Feast in there.
Oh.
But it's talking about the difference, like, the progression of eating and even eating in the scriptures.
Wow.
And how, it's changed throughout, and what we eat and why we eat and those kind of things, But eating movement from just eating to nourish, but eating to, to celebrate. And the reality that we like cover a table, we delineate it. So tables can do lots of things, but once I cover it with a cloth, it is to do one thing, which is to eat a meal. Like we have these kind of like traditions that we do and all this kind of stuff. So it's a really cool book if anyone's ever interested in the kind of really diving into the spirituality, like eating and why we eat and what we eat and that kind of stuff, which is really cool. But yeah, that's where the joy comes from, the encounter, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And not just being filled, because we could fill ourselves with
Anything. Yeah.
and the meal is more about the relationship than it is about the food that's being served.
And the process.
In the
of
process,
preparing it. Yeah.
Yeah, because the amount of time that she devotes to cooking, and just, I mean, it's just coming from a very authentic, real place, and then that's just in the food, that's just part of the meal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, because I also like to entertain and just setting the table and and walk in both things, having going through the process that day of getting so excited for those people to come in and be able to share in what you've put together, and then the other piece of also going in somewhere where someone's done that for you, and I mean, that's almost overwhelming, especially if you have done it, because what that gift is, and yeah, I think as families, it's this idea of table, and we've talked about it before in dinner tables, but just somehow we have got to still come around and, intentionally talk to each other and have conversations. And I was at this, I think I was saying this before, but I went to this this conversation um, about this kind of internet generation and our kids right now that are on phones all the time, and just that this really is affecting, because happiness really is kind of tied to what our human encounters and our sense of happiness. And so they're saying that these kids aren't really have a lower sense of happiness, and this, and even their mental health, and so I just think it's like this is like necessary for our survival. Like we have to, so I used to kind of be like, oh, I can't talk about dinner tables because I'll seem like out of touch. Nobody has a dinner table anymore. But now I want to tell people, no, we have to come around, and whether that's if it's not at dinner time, if it's sitting on a couch across from each other having conversations, but that is truly tied to our joy and our happiness.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that, in the gospel here in Luke, we have, Jesus calling them on a plane, right? In Matthew, we're in a mount, so there's almost a separation. But here it's like we have a plane. It's almost like we're all can see each other. We're on this level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what tables do. You
Yes.
just sit down and almost everyone's at the same level.
Yeah.
Face to face.
Yeah, that's kind of, I love that too. I noticed that too in the very beginning of the gospel. It's like,
Mm.
on a level place, there was kind of this like Jesus is sharing in their humanity in a really, really deep way there.
And there's something about it, because last night also I was participating in a family event at Christ Cathedral over at the school, and I was setting up for it, and then I walked into the gym. Okay, in the gym was where the meal was going to be, and I walked in, and there was probably like a dozen tables at least set up with families just around each table, and it almost took my breath away. Like, just seeing, I was just like, just seeing, because we don't see that as often anymore either. At our churches and things, we used to kind of. I used to always remember being at church potlucks and stuff like that, but just to, it took my breath away. Because and then just sitting and watching people, talking at the tables, and I was just like, I shouldn't be, like, it's not that, it should be ordinary, but it seemed very, very extraordinary.
That's the world we're living in now, is that sanctity is going to be doing ordinary things, like, really.
Right.
Just
Ooh,
like
that's
sharing
good.
those things, like
Say that again.
sanctity is going to be found in doing ordinary things, like loving each other in ordinary ways, I love what when you prepare a meal or when you set a table, like what you're saying to the people around them too is that you have dignity. Like, like you have value to me. You could just like wrap up like something and shove it in their hands and say, see you later, I fed you, whatever. That's like, so it's missing the whole point. Like, but you're saying to them like I want you to be a part of me, and I want to share a part of myself with you, and that I value you, like we don't set a table for people we don't value, like, and kind of going above. It really does show them that they mean something to you, and there's a value there. So it's a beautiful thing.
And I think as I was hearing you speak, Pam, also on a daily basis, we all work, go to school, just, like a family, when parents are working at night and people have different schedules, just if we were to have that routine and be consistent, like it would spark a lot of conversation with parents and kids. And we don't really see that a lot. And I feel there's a lot of miscommunication within parents and kids because of different schedules. And I think a lot of opportunity, a lot of healing can come up in dinner tables.
Yeah.
In families, and would avoid a lot of brokenness. It's just time to listen to each other. So
amen. Just
that
receive.
came up right now as I was listening to it.
We love the conversation today. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I want to coin. I've just been thinking about this lately. Is because it is so hard for families, and so just to start small. But I was like trying to go. Could there be a movement and just one night or something? But not even. We don't have to limit it to one. Then that sounds like you only have to do it one night. But just one night, and almost even if you could, just one night a week. just say, no matter what, like you're saying, Thursday night for you, Father, is just,
super rare that it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Just one night, whether it's and where that becomes, our family becomes the priority tonight. I mean, our family togetherness is over everything else on that one night, and I think if you just, the first thing is to make a decision. And then it becomes, like you said, Tim, like something that you see the fruit of it, and you just keep honoring it, and then it just and
you feel it yourself, like there's it brings you joy, right?
Yeah.
And you love doing it. I mean, you wouldn't continue doing it. You wouldn't continue inviting people or making it a New Year's resolution unless it meant something to you.
And then when you tell people, they're thinking like, I want to come,
Yeah,
and almost like when you tell people at the soccer field, I got to go home now because it's just one night, tonight's our night. And, everybody is going to be, I want to go home with you, so.
It's a human hunger.
Yeah.
It's huge. Yeah.
Take me with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Take me with you.
Me with you.
Yeah.
I'm open any nights. Actually, not many of them, but yeah. But I invite you to. We like to have our family, and we've shared a lot of tradition already, so that's totally a thing. But is there anything else that you do together that we could share with our families that kind of help bring faith and family together?
We kind of just started, and we were talking about it, how we want at least once a time during the week to sit down and just reflect on the Bible and like have a conversation, no food involved, just, talking about it, because I personally.
Yeah, I would just open up something that maybe we heard during that Sunday's readings, or in our case, I think recently we were at a retreat meeting. We were preparing for a retreat at St. Barbara's, and we usually do Lectio Divina there. And there was a scripture passage that kind of struck me, and I think during the week I just said, Wendy, I'm kind of wrestling with this phrase here, and I want to get your take on it. And so we just sat down, I think for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we were just reading it. And what's interesting though is because we come from two different kind of backgrounds. Like, I'm Hispanic, but I grew up very much in English. Like, my faith life has always been in English. And she's, grew up in Spanish. And
going to mass only in Spanish. So now I'm learning to read the Bible in English, even though it's the same thing. It's different.
Yeah.
It's different.
The language is...
and the sense that you get in the different languages is super important.
Yeah.
So it's kind of neat that we're able to
bring those two
together. Yeah. But that's
something that we're trying to
that
make
we're trying to make a kind of cement as a tradition, and we've done that with other things too, apart from just scripture. Where I read from you something that kind of struck me, or you share with me a question that you might be struggling with, or regarding faith or something, and we discuss that. So just kind of
that's something.
Yeah.
And
not to bring this back to food at all, but in the liturgy, there are actually two altars: the altar of the Word and the altar of sacrifice.
Oh.
So technically, they're actually supposed to look very similar: the ambo and the altar.
Oh.
They're supposed to be made of the similar materials
to
match that. They're both two tables that we're fed from.
Oh, interesting.
The Word and the sacrifice. Anyways.
Wow.
I can't remember what I was
Sorry, do you realize?
No, it's okay.
I lost your train of thought.
I lost it.
It was probably regarding food, right?
Yeah.
I think we're hungry. Is everyone else hungry?
Yeah.
I'm starting to get a little hungry
That's a common
myself.
theme. Mind you, food is not mentioned once in any of these readings.
No, but of course.
Of course it is. Blessed. Hungry is mentioned, right?
Yeah.
That's true.
That's what
Hungry is
eisegesis there, but
But that's, I guess, and going back to, because I know this is such for families, so I just want to throw it out there again too, but it's just, how now, even when I go, out to dinner and things, how much we see still families, on their devices, as they're sitting and sharing time together, so I don't know what that's going to look like. I mean, you guys still, we're all older. We didn't grow up with that, but it really is something that, we have to kind of talk about and manage, and I don't even know be bold enough to tell our, kids, like, when we go out to dinner, we're not going to have any phones at the table. I don't know. Thoughts on that for you guys as parents?
Yeah,
I think you have
Eventually.
to be intentional about it, and you have to say, this time is going to be a cell phone free time,
Yeah, it's something that I worry about too because I mean, we are guilty of that too at times because we're talking about something. It's like, oh, wait, hold on, let me look it up. But it's to
Yeah.
spark the conversation. I think there's a difference in being on social media, not being present, but utilizing the phone as a discussion or to kind of follow up on something that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But I think just even disconnecting from that to be able to connect in the moment is very important. And, we have talked about that when we have kids, like definitely no phone policy at the dinner table.
I love that. We
I
did. We took
remember what I was
did you?
going to
Okay,
say.
good.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, because it was on what you guys were saying. Is just about having your tradition of trying to intentionally kind of talk about some things you might have been thinking about through the week or whatever. And I just think that is beautiful, okay, because I really feel like sometimes too we're each individually, like sometimes maybe I'm reading a book, okay, and my husband isn't necessarily a reader, okay, but I feel like books kind of change me sometimes, and so now there's something that's gone inside of me that I'm pondering or thinking about that now is a piece of me. And so how important, whether that's a book or a conversation I had but sometimes those things are happening and we're not sharing with the people that are closest to us, kind of about the ways that we're being changed throughout our daily lives, and so having that time even to just kind of relook at your week and just take pieces of it so that it goes into your whole family. It doesn't just go into one of you. So
Right, sharing those.
yeah, I remember I have a friend, Kirsten. She's been on the podcast before, but she went to a retreat. She went to World Youth Day by herself, and her husband, the first year, she didn't take him. It just didn't work out for them, and she came back and she was trying to tell him about it so much, and then they made a policy that they're never going to go on those trips alone. They're going to go together because she was like, I'm just so different, how do I bring you? I want you to have the same experiences. So how important it is for somehow, and that's, I think, what tables do is try to give us a place to share those experiences. And yeah.
As you were mentioning, reading books, we love books. We have a room full of books. Like you have this shelf, mine, and we haven't yet read a book together. But when we have our own books, we'll come together and talk about, like, hey, George, like I read this. What do you think about this? I'll tap something for him, and he'll do the same with me. But just that exchange of whatever we're learning connects us, and it's just again that theme of sharing, that and connecting.
But I think it's important to have a place where that your sharing is going to be received or acknowledged or appreciated. It's like, I think that's part of the, part of being able to be vulnerable and have an environment when you're able to do that. And that takes fostering, right?
Yeah,
like,
it does.
even within our families, like I think we've fostered that. So now I feel comfortable in our families, bringing things up and everybody knowing that we can put something on the table here and nobody's going to belittle it, nobody's going to think less of us. I mean, this is a safe environment for us to do so. So.
Well, thank you, George and Wendy, for coming on with us today. But most importantly, thank you for being like heralds of the table, and heralds of family life and valuing others and making that priority, like, and doing it. I think sometimes we can it all can be like theory, right? We can think about it. And that was the thing that made me go rubber meets the road in my own life was like, I can't talk about family and not do it myself.
Right.
And just kind of make that decision. And it was the best things I've ever done. And so thank you for doing that and being bold and inviting other people into that and forming them. Cause that's what you're doing. You're forming people in really the spirituality of the family, right?
Yeah.
Spirituality, domestic church, and allowing you to share your love, and it becomes their love in some way too as they go, and kind of provides that hope. So,
blessed are those who find time for others who enjoy the company of friends and loved ones, and who gather around a table.